need somebody to do it because you don't either have the time or, again, you don't have the knowledge per se, but you can do it. But what I do, and that's why I start off with the consulting portion, so I can say, what are you looking to do? If you're looking to grow to be bigger, start now. What if you started working with me and you had a problem with one thing that I did, you're going to leave again? I was like, see what happened first to get the answer why something was the way it was. If it's not something that you think should have happened that way, then yeah, definitely come on.
Right.
But I want to make sure that when it comes to the integrity of what I do, it's fair.
Welcome back to another episode of Empower716. I am your host, Rob Lowry, and this is a podcast dedicated to entrepreneurs, business owners, career shifters, side hustlers, those who are committed to growing their life and business in the Western New York area. And so today in the building, we have a special guest by the name of Desiree L. Parker, DLP Consulting. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
You're doing great. So I know we were talking a little bit offline before we started the show. It is summertime, not officially, but it's summertime in Buffalo. And we were talking about we really deserve this weather.
Yes, listen, after the winter that we had, we're currently on our way to summer, but anything without snow, I will definitely accept it. Any heat, I will accept and I will not complain.
It's so funny that yesterday, like I went outside, I was trying to do some, do the yard, trying to clean up the yard and get all the stuff that, kind of the garage and organized. And so I was like, it was 90 degrees yesterday. And it was hot. And for just a second, I was about to complain, like how hot it was. But I was like, you know what?
We done had the others. So we can be okay.
So I was like, we got to enjoy this weather. Yes, got to enjoy while you can and kind of get out. And so I'm kind of looking forward to, there's a lot of stuff going on in the community too, so which is dope. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I want to, introduce to our audience, who is Desiree? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
All right. Well, as you said, Desiree L. Parker. I haven't used my middle initial now. Wow, it sounded great when you said like that. You're born with a middle name. My daughter actually named my business for me, ironically enough.
Okay.
Because when I decided to do this, I've been doing what I do, and I'll go into that a little bit more detail later. But I've been doing it for years, just kind of helping people.
Okay.
But my general background, me, Desiree, I am Buffalo born and raised. I went to Sweet Home High School and graduated from there. I attended Canisius College, and we all know Canisius is a little bit pricey, so I wasn't able to afford that last year. But later on, I went back and finished online with the University of Phoenix, so I do hold a bachelor's degree. I'm actually working on doing my master's degree actually as well.
Nice.
That's just for my own personal benefit. I technically really don't need it, but when you have your personal goals, it's something personally I want to work towards. I have a 27-year-old daughter, Natanya Bianca Parker, because some people probably know her.
Say the full name. You got a full government name on that.
It's an MVP. When she moved to New York City to go to school, she decided to stay there, so she does live there now.
Okay.
But when she went to school, she's like, okay, well, when I go to school, I'm just going to, kind of shorten it to Tanya. Well, her school was so excited that they could get her name and pronounce it properly. Everybody started off Natanya, so now it's Natanya. She can get away with it. I named her, so I like it.
Right.
So I do have a 27-year-old. She actually she attended AMDA in New York City, and she lives she lives there full time now. She's an actor, singer, dancer.
Wow, that's
so
awesome.
I'm sure if you see my website, you see I travel to New York quite a bit. That's where I be. But I do have clients in New York City as well. But me as a whole, I've been around in the business industry for over 30 years. Wow. I've been working my way up, starting with food service, from owning my own business to working in banking and finance, to being a district manager over many a franchise. I don't know if we want to say names, but over franchises. So I've been around to different businesses, and I've worked with many people in the community. Community is what we have. That's what we hold on to. So when it comes to being there and helping out in the community, that's really what it's all about, and giving back.
Nice. Well, great, journey, and thanks for sharing that. What, I guess what interests you, because sometimes I was good at math, but I just I had to barely pass it. I got it, and that was it. So what kind of, I guess, interests you in business and the finance and all that good stuff?
Okay. Well, this is a funny story. So let's just call it middle school years. I love math.
Okay.
I like numbers. I like money. I like to see it work out. However, as it started getting more difficult when you go through your high school years and they got the AP stuff.
Yeah.
I was okay with that. So a lot of times people was like, why are you doing this again? I remember you didn't like math like that. It was an acquired thing. So just a little bit more of a backstory. So both of my parents raised me to, go after your dreams, what you want to do, find your interest. Well,
right.
When I started working at 16, clearly I didn't have a child. So there was nothing to give me that motivation to say, hey, do this. So, as an average teenager do start out working at Burger King, I said, okay, well, this is my job. I'm 16. But my only goal at that point was to be able to go to work and look cute. That had nothing to do with math.
That's typical age, yeah.
But that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
So going forward, when I first started Canisius, I really wasn't sure still, so I went in undecided. But then I seen the program they had coming on, which is hospitality management. I love working with people in the public. I like the curriculum, so that's why I ended up studying when I was at Canisius.
Okay.
So I went down that path. With that path, it is more than just, I work at a hotel type thing. Is hospitality law, there's a hospitality accounting, and so on and so forth. I did just enough to understand, because when I ended up owning my Subway back in 1998.
Okay.
1998 is when I acquired the Subway restaurant, and when I did that, that's when I had literally just finished my accounting classes at Canisius, and when I tell you I struggled to get through those classes, because I went through them, because Subway, when you have your own business, it was around that time when there's a lot of embezzlement going on in big corporations. I said, you know what, if I'm going to have my own business, I need to know what this means.
Oh, absolutely.
My father was big with the business. My mother, I grew up in a two-family household, so not saying that one did more than the other, but my mother made sure, she raised us, and my father worked at a plant, and, she just made sure we had those basic skills, or those life skills. My father was that business person. When his plant decided to shut down, because they did a lot of consolidation back then.
Yeah.
He's like, I love advertising, but he was always a business type person. So he kind of put that business mindset in me, because I'm a person that, let's just get the business ready, get it done. People that meet me, my daughter's always just like, well, relax, you don't always have to talk business. It's just a natural concept for me sometimes. So before I go out network, it's just a natural
part of who you are, yeah.
Yes. So that's where the business background came from. So I'm always looking at that angle. As I was taking those the classes through Canisius, when I purchased the Subway restaurant, I had to go to Connecticut for training. They had 2 weeks training in Connecticut. When I tell you I went there, and everything that I struggled to get through in the accounting class, it was completely opposite.
Really?
They trained me completely opposite for their systems.
Wow.
So then I was just like, okay, now y'all pay on my body. I'm like, let me get through this, because you actually had to pass the courses, the testing with certain grades before you can get your franchise. I don't like to do things twice, first of all, so I made sure I got through it. So I came back, and then once I had a hands-on type thing, and then it was my goal to, okay, I need to know what that end number is. Now, for everybody who does QuickBooks and the numbers, you just plug them in.
Yeah. This
was back when you had to use a pencil, a spreadsheet, and a calculator.
Ooh.
Okay. So for me, learning the numbers and accounting, that was actually the best way I could learn, because there's no computation that the computer's going to do it for you. It's either you know it or you don't.
Right.
And Subway was taking the money out of what I said I did, so I wanted to know it. So it's a little bit different when you do business. You want to make sure it's right. You don't want to give out no extra money. So it became a thing of, I was used to run around with food service, being on my feet, just run around. But again, I was younger then. So I was back then, I was like, I don't want to sit behind a desk. I just want to run around, just be busy. And when my day is done, I go home. That lasted until I got a little older, and I said, okay, not so young anymore. I'm okay with sitting down. So that's when I led to, when I sold my store, I had my Subway store for 5 years. And when I sold my store, I was known as the youngest female African American franchise owner in the North American state. I had two partners, two silent partners with Subway. So when I say we, I always talk we. I like to make sure I give everybody that helps.
Right.
And I had a community behind me. My parents, huge support. My brother, my daughter, they've always been there. My support system, my family and friends. So I like to always say thank you to them because I didn't do it myself. Everybody is not always blessed to have such a support system, but I had a really strong one. But when I was doing all that, my marketing guy, really, really strong, loved him to death. And he put that out there and it just spread like wildfire.
Wow, that's dope.
Wildfire, there we go. But I was in Essence magazine. I was in Black Enterprises, the local papers. I was on the cover of the restaurant magazine. If you've ever been in my office, I actually have the plaques hanging. But it brought a lot of attention to me. I'm dope. Not always that out front talkative person. My daughter's been dancing since she was 4. I'm the backstage mom. I'm okay with that. Okay. I recently received an award at the Buff City Awards, which I appreciate Rob Cornelius for putting that on. And
that was that was definitely a nice event.
It's really honoring the businesses, and everybody is out there with great backgrounds, great to hear. I went up to accept my award and I completely froze. And I was just like, usually, it's hard to catch me off guard. If you want me to talk, I can talk, no problem.
Right.
But it completely, I don't know why I was caught so off guard, but I have to say, when she was announcing and talking about the next awardee that's coming up, I was like, oh, that's really nice. That's a great story. And then she said Desiree Parker. I was like, oh, she was talking about me. So I'm like sitting there like dazed, and I had to go up and I was like, okay, what's I supposed to say again? When I'm talking, my business automatically comes out on autopilot.
Yeah.
But I had a table full of family and friends there, so I have to, again, say thank you to them for coming out and supporting me, because every time I do something, I say, hey, I'm doing this. They're like, I'm there. They're there for support.
That's lovely.
So support systems are always great. But yes, when it comes to numbers, it got to the point where when I went to go sell my store after 5 years, I was such a high-profile Subway franchisee. They literally said they made me sign a 2-year non-compete clause with any food, not just Subway, with no food, because they know I was coming.
Because you that competition,
like,
yeah.
Make sure so that at that point, I was just at the point. I don't get angry too often, but I just show and tell as opposed to being angry or a retaliation type thing. I'd rather go and show you more than I tell you type thing. So that's when I went into finance. So I started working at the banks, and working at a bank, it is finance. There's a lot of different levels to it. So I worked at a couple different banks, and that's where the interest came from with the numbers. Because when you're a teller, and I don't demote any position at where it is, because you can be a super teller and that's what you like to do, that's fine.
Right.
But I've always wanted to learn more. I always had a thirst for knowledge. I want to see kind of what it's made of, what the end goal is. And I'm more like, my father called me the fixer when I go into a business. I have a thing where if your business is having issues or you're trying to figure out what happened, I can go in there, see where the problem is, fix the problem, and it's like, okay, here we go. But that's that end goal. I like the challenge of it. And that's what gets me excited. I don't know why, but it gets me excited to find that where the problem is so I can fix the problem. So that's what kind of led me to where I am. My father been telling me for years, like over 10 years, he's like, you should just go ahead and do, bookkeeping. I was like, I'll help people. I'm always the one, I'll help people. I'm there for you. I want to be your support. But during the pandemic, a lot happened. Unfortunately, I had 2 car accidents, and it took me down after that second one because it was like within a year span. Wow. And I wasn't working, and I'm just like, well, not working is not an option.
Right.
But I physically just could not move around like I used to, so I need to take that step back. I feel great now. Luckily, blessed to feel better.
That's great.
Because, you can be in many different contractions.
Have the pain,
But yeah, it really got me to the point where, okay, here's what I want to do. Because again, when I was younger, I would tell my clients now is you need a why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's that driving force that's going to get you to that next level? Well, I used to use my daughter. She was younger. I wanted her to see mom is out there working, make sure you're taken care of, and get that, just to have that mentorship of saying you can do this type deal.
Right.
Now that she's 27, she's grown 27, living in New York City on her own, and we don't have family there that she can go next door and be like, okay, I need some help. She literally said, I'm going to move here and I'm going to do it myself. She still has all of my support, and when she has a show, mom has to be there. Grandma and grandpa can get a pass on it, but I have to be there for opening night, and she's doing great there, I have to say.
That's awesome.
She was actually cast in her first off-Broadway show last month, I believe, so I had to be there for opening night. It was tax weekend. And I said, well, honey, it's the tax weekend. This is my business. I got to be here. And at first she let it go. Then she thought about it after. I said, "But Mom, it's my opening. It's off Broadway because as a actor, singer, dancer, that's your first thing you want is to be on Broadway. So that's her step before getting there. So long story short, I was in New York for her opening show. I was working while I was there, but I was there. That's the good part about what I do.
And that's good. Yeah, I know. Like, I have a couple of friends that are CPAs, and I don't talk to them till after tax season. It's like during that period, it's just like no social life. It's just nothing. So the fact that you went out there to go see
I said, your internet working this? Yep. Okay. Got the internet. So she works during the day, and I'm like, okay, I'll be here working while you're there. So that is one good thing about what I do because I can travel with it. I have a secured hosting site that I log into, so there's no issues with the information and everything. But yeah, overall, it's just been a whirlwind because she's the one who said, well, Mom, when I was trying to decide when she left, because she left for school prior to pandemic. So I was like, okay, so, what I'm going to do? After doing a lot so young, a lot of people always ask me, so, what's your next steps? Because I kind of feel like I got up here, and I'm not saying that I'm down here now, but I reached so many huge goals so early. So for me, doing bookkeeping, this is a great thing for me because I can help and I can still, I can get my travel, and I love to travel.
Right.
And I can still kind of, function and just, I pride myself, and my passion is in helping others to skip a few steps of those mistakes that I made. I tell people all the time I had a CPA on retainer when I had my Subway restaurant, and I wasn't told half the stuff that I'm giving my clients right now.
Yeah.
When you're running a business, you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't got somebody watching and just kind of like out there saying, hey, this is something good to know, because I did it firsthand. I made a lot of expensive mistakes, and I learned from them, and I fixed them. So I'm willing to share that with others now. So yes, I do bookkeeping. Yes, I do tax preparation. But the DLP consulting is the biggest portion, and coaching and consulting is a big portion of what I strive on because, again, as a small business owner or entrepreneurs, during the pandemic, a lot of people took their hobby, decided that they don't like their job because they were stuck at home anyway, and turned it into their business.
Exactly.
Well, now we're post-pandemic officially through politics, as they say. So now it's coming to a point, okay, after 3 years, did we file our taxes? Do we have our numbers together? I want to see our small businesses thrive. I really do. And if I can be any part of helping to get them situated as far as getting their financial numbers in line and making sure they're filed properly, that's what I'm looking forward to doing.
I love that.
Want to be a guest on our show? We're always looking for entrepreneurs, business owners, side hustlers, and career shifters that are willing to share their life and business experiences, strategies, lessons learned, and pitfalls to avoid with our listeners. If you would like to be considered as a guest on an upcoming episode, email us at Empower716@gmail.com and include your contact information along with background information about your business and share what value you can add to our listeners.
One of the things, and we talked a little bit about this before, was just learning and being open, because especially when it comes to money, everybody's kind of private about it, and you don't want to feel like for me at certain points in my business, I was like, I should know this. And so it was kind of like, I don't want to go to somebody and tell them that I don't know this. And I think once you get to the point is having your, being open. And I think also your relationship with money and how you manage it in your personal life transitions to how you manage it in your business. So what, I guess when you look at someone, or we're working with a client, a potential client, and they're starting their business, what are some kind of key things in the financial aspect that you kind of say, this is kind of what you may have to do?
Okay. Well, you know what? What I want to say first is I never pass judgment, because everybody is where they are. And again, I say very clearly, if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
I use myself as example many times. When I'm working with a client, I do not disclose any of my clients' personal information with anybody else. If you want to go and tell everybody that you're working with me, that's for you to do.
Right.
But you don't have to. I appreciate the referrals, because right now I'm basing my business off referrals, but I'm expanding now at this point. But I'm not one. A lot of times businesses like, oh, I don't want to talk to that person because they're going to go tell all my business.
Yeah.
That I don't do, because first of all, it's very unethical, but it's nobody else's business but your own. So when most of my clients, I start off as a consultation, and I start by telling about myself, because you, first of all, you want your client to be comfortable with you. And I have no problem using myself as an example. I say, listen, yes, I owe back taxes, and they garnished my check for it. And when I was done, I was like, whew, okay, it's all done and said. Yeah. I learned that the hard way. Now going forward, I don't expect that to happen again, because I've been there, done that. Right. I want to go back there. But I don't have a problem sharing that with others. Allow me to help you get to the point where you don't have to go through that if you can help it.
Right.
If you do, fine, no problem. My thing is, if you have issues, or let's say you didn't file your taxes, let's get on file, call the IRS or state, make those arrangements so you can get that on arrangements, and then you won't have any bad problems. Just don't run.
Right.
So I share my information first, and then I sit down with them. Once I share my information, then I say, how can I help you? Because once I share my information, and because some people's like, well, that's a lot of information. You're telling people you owe money. I absolutely did. Yeah. Because I am no way claiming that I'm perfect, that I did everything the right way, that I learned everything. I'm not saying I know everything now, but what I can share with you is my personal experience and what I've been through. And I've been through a lot. And I don't plan to do that again, but when it's a tax deadline, I'll make sure I hit those. But again, that eases them up to share with me what they're trying to do, because that's the biggest thing I've seen, even going back to when I had my Subway store. Businesses don't like to always share with other businesses, because they think they're going to either take their ideas, or they're going to pass judgment on them, or something they don't know. So I want to make sure they're in a comfortable atmosphere. Like, I like your studio here. It's comfortable, and I will talk regardless, but it's very comfortable and inviting. That's what you want your clients to feel. If they're not comfortable with you, they're not even going to let loose what they're trying to get to. So you're not really helping them. You're just kind of sitting and just taking up some time. So I want to make sure they're comfortable. Once they start telling me whether, because I get clients who's either trying to get started, they've been started and they've been in business for years, but they never really got it financially on paper, their financials. And I'm not even talking the money portion, but just having their financial statements in line.
Right.
These days, a lot of people are trying to apply for grants and loans, and they say, great, give me your P&L statements. Huh?
What is that? Yeah.
P&L is a profit and loss statement. Yeah. Bare minimum, you need to know what your revenue and your income is. You need to know where your expenses are going. What's that bottom line for you? Most of the time, it probably will be negative, but that's okay. But you need to know. I always say, if you know your numbers, you can grow your numbers. So you want to be sure that you're able to make sure you go forward and know what that means to you. So once we get to the point where we're scheduling that and we're talking about it and it start coming out, now how can we go forward and either fix it or get the right information on file so we can, make a plan. A lot of times when people are going forward and they're trying to be at the point where they're able to take that next step in the business, they want to do that, but they're just not quite there yet. I meet with clients all the time, and I'll use examples of my clients that I've worked with, but not specifics, names and stuff like that, just to let people know you're not by yourself. It's okay. So a lot of times when they come in, it starts off with, well, it's this and that, and I'm trying to get it together. I'm trying to go legit. That's my favorite one. I'm trying to get legalized. Not saying that's illegal. Yeah. I always preface those like, I don't hire money for anybody. I don't do illegal stuff. Yeah. But I'll help you get your book straight, is which really what they're trying to say. And I make sure that I completely understand what they're saying. So I'll let them talk, and I'll say, okay, here's what I'm hearing. So I'm not a psychiatrist either, but I watch a lot of TV. Yeah. So you want to put it back out there for them to make sure that you hear them. So that's their time. Let's get it on, figure out what you need to do, and then we make a plan together.
Tell me a little bit about, just some of the, getting someone who's trying to get organized, and without giving too much of what you do specifically, but what are some of the red flags? Like when people say, I can just do this on my own. Because that was me when I first started. And I thought I knew a little bit about the basics. I looked at, I knew what the P&L was. I knew what the balance sheets was. I kind of like the basics. And I was like, okay, I can handle this. And then there was a lot of more information. So once I started reading the tax laws and the benefits and what I can write off, it started getting a little gray. So do you find a lot of people who may not have an accountant, may not have a consulting, and they're trying to do it themselves and then also run your business? it's really challenging. So what do you say to those individuals?
You absolutely can.
Yeah.
You absolutely can.
And I like that you said that.
Not everybody can, but you can. It's possible.
Okay.
So depending on where you're at with your business, depending on the type of business and the type of volume you have coming in, you can do it either way it goes. It depends on yourself. I had a client that I worked with that I worked with her for a year. She's like, I think I can do this on my own. Great. She's like, but if I have to call you, I'm going to call you. That's what I'm here for. Ultimately, when I tell people, when you have a small business, most businesses start out small. These big corporations, they start out small.
Right.
As you're growing, you definitely going to need somebody to do it because you don't either have the time or, again, you don't have the knowledge per se, but you can do it. But what I do, and that's why I start off with the consulting portion, so I can say, what are you looking to do? If you're looking to grow to be bigger, start now to get get a bookkeeper. A bookkeeper is a lot cheaper than a CPA. I'm not a CPA. I make sure I preface that. Everybody keeps telling me to get my CPA licensing. That's a whole nother. But it may be in my future because I do enjoy what I'm doing. But I'm always taking webinars and classes just to stay current with the information because tax laws change all the time.
Right.
But there are some that say, oh yeah, I can do this myself. What I do, I give people the option. Everybody don't necessarily want to take on that additional expense or not able to necessarily to take the expense for a bookkeeper. So what I can do, if your business is smaller, I can actually create a spreadsheet for you and show you how to keep your own books. Unfortunately, many, when I do that, they get even more confused because it's like, ooh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But again, because we always want to try to do it ourselves and be like that one-stop shop.
Yeah.
If you can do that, great. But I've been running into a lot of people that said, I literally am allergic to numbers. I have no idea. And they want to. So I mentioned the fact that my bookkeeping service is less than a CPA because some of the charges that, let me just use my own example again. When I have my CPA on retainer, when I have my Subway, when I tell you, and I didn't notice until I got my bill, when they would call me or I called them, they would charge me back every 15 minutes when I called them. And
that's
I was like, I just had a quick question. I personally don't feel that's necessary to charge my client for a quick question. A quick question meaning, hey, Desiree, listen, I'm going down to this office. They told me I need a W-9. What is that? That's a quick, all it is means this. I don't feel like somebody be charging for that. But again, that's just me.
Right.
Been there, done that. It's a small business. Every little bit of charge is not necessary. You say you need coaching sessions, no problem. Now that's an extra expense because we're going to sit down for a half an hour, and go over some things that you have questions on. So I actually encourage people to do that if they're able to. Right. Because again, when you're looking at your overall expenses, you have to break down, okay, is this important? You got to kind of itemize and see which is the top of the list for you to do. For businesses that's growing, I absolutely, without a doubt, say get help, whether it's me or somebody else. I don't give away business, but I encourage fairness. I had a potential client that called me. I did a meeting with her, and she wanted to leave the current person that she was with that was doing her books. And I said, well, if you don't mind me asking, why are you leaving? The one thing that she was upset about, I said, well, I'm not trying to push you off or say I don't want to work with you, but for just that one thing that you had an issue with, I just first suggest you go and speak with them first. Because I would rather you have that conversation with them. And I said this to her. I said, what if you started working with me and you had a problem with one thing that I did? You're going to leave again. I was like, see what happened first to get the answer why something was the way it was. If it's not something that you think should have happened that way, then yeah, definitely come on. Right. But I want to make sure that when it comes to the integrity of what I do, it's fair. Because if somebody had a problem with something I didn't do for them or didn't do right or give me a chance to fix it, I'd rather them come and say, hey, Desiree, what you did with this, what happened? I'd rather them come and talk to me first instead of saying, I'm just going to leave her and then everybody walks around, well, she didn't do this and she said that. I didn't even know it happened. So, I encourage her. She's like, okay, well, that makes sense. But that's the way I operate. So when somebody's sitting with me, I want them to understand. I understand there's other people that does bookkeeping in the city and there's bigger firms, smaller firms, whatever the case. I'm not out here in a competition with anybody. I'm doing this for the love and the passion for what I like to do. The money comes with it. It is a business. It's definitely for profit, but it's a knowledge base. But I want everybody to be comfortable with what they do and know that they can rely on themselves doing their own work or rely on a bookkeeper doing their work and actually getting out of it what they need. if you have a bookkeeper, minimal, you should be getting a profit and loss statement. Most of my clients get them on a quarterly basis. You can give them out on a monthly basis, or some just say, just let me know if I'm doing something wrong. So everybody has something different that they like, but you want to know what's going on in your business. So if you have a business, you not really sure where your numbers are. Like I did one business and they was like, oh, wow, I knew it was doing really good, but I didn't know it was this good. It's like, yeah, your volume looks great. You have the income coming, but let's look at these expenses. Your expenses, you want to eventually get up underneath the revenues, because that's when you start making that money at the bottom line. And unfortunately for many businesses, that's where the disconnect comes in at. I actually did seminars. This summer is actually going to be a year of education for me for teaching my clients and potential clients, just on the basis of what I'm seeing throughout the community in different businesses. Again, not discussing any specific businesses, but I did one on taxes, and I was saying, and I did it in my studio at my office. I have my office, and right next door is a studio. Thank you to my daughter. We had to make her studio during COVID, so now it's my studio that I use for different things in there that I rent out for small events. But I said, here's what happens: businesses go from this is my hobby. I like what I do. Okay, so I'm gonna start doing this all the time, and then it's like, oh, I'll just make this a business. So I called it the business of the business seminars because we all know how to do business, but we don't know how to do the back end of that business. Yeah. A lot of times people open up their doors and say, oh, come on in. Day's over, shut the doors, take the money out the register. They walk out, okay, I'm free. Okay, that's not it.
Yeah, it's a lot more to it.
Yes. You have to, see how much you had come in. If you're retailing, how much to go out. If you have food service is my biggest background. So do you know what your food cost is? Do you know what your payroll cost is? All these things that go into as your expenses. And those expenses is what is going to drive your business to grow. And if you don't know what those are, that's the most dangerous part. So again, when I sit down with somebody, the first thing I say is, I do not pass judgment on you. You're free to, say and do whatever you want. Some people sit down and say, here's my background. And I'm like, okay. And they're looking at me like, you're not going to react to that. It's like, everybody has their past experience, the past things they've done. I don't pass judgment. It is what it is. Let's look forward. Because when ultimately, and I don't like to say what's said and done, ultimately, as you're moving forward, because that's what we're trying to do is move forward, what are we going to do? What you did last month, last year, the past 10 years, it does not make a difference to me. Let's move forward. What are we trying to get to? My goal is to help our community to grow and expand. Sitting around my father and his friend when I was growing up, and actually I was sitting with my father's friend's sister, and she just came to the studio. She just really came to look at the studio to rent it out, and we ended up talking for 2 hours. And I was saying how, I used to sit there when I was growing up because, we were all young before, but, when we were little, kids don't get into conversations. You sit there, listen, you don't have anything to say. So I did a lot of listening. So as I did that listening, I was just like, okay, well, I heard all these different things of the business talk they were doing and the growth and the different things we were going to do. So it's at a thing where I just made sure I moved forward just to make sure that now all these things I learned when I was younger, that I went forward and I'm able to apply all of those things.
Awesome.
Everything is really based off my website, so I keep it up to date. That's something, can you do it yourself? And my daughter got me, she wouldn't do my website for me, so I did my website myself, so I'm learning more to keep it up that way so I can keep it current. Everything's through there, so yes.
Awesome.
Hey, what's up, Western New York? Did you know that Empower716 Talk Show is looking to promote and recognize young entrepreneurs in Western New York? You could recommend yourself or someone else to be acknowledged on a future episode. Nominees need to be age 21 or under, has a service or product that offers value, has taken steps to become an entrepreneur, and must be willing to come on the show and talk about their service or product if selected. Email us at empower716@gmail.com.
Want to stay up to date with Empower716? Don't forget to share. Click here in the right-hand corner of the video and follow button below so you can see the upcoming episodes live on your news feed. Find Empower716 on LinkedIn Live, YouTube, Facebook, and other audio platforms.
So tell us, if someone is interested in your services, where can they contact you at?
Okay. Well, first, DLP Consulting is located. I have an office on Jefferson Avenue at 1339 Jefferson Avenue. I'm sure you've seen in the community. It says Parker's Place right on the building. Yes, that is my last name. I've seen some people there last summer, and they was like, "Oh, I never put it together. That's your last name." Yes, that's me. So yes, you can locate me there. I do work during the day, so I am available nights and weekends for appointments. So you may come by, it's like, "Oh, but you're never there," because I work by appointments. So you can easiest reach me is through my website, which is www.dlpconsultingwny.com. You can schedule your appointments through there. You can keep up with what I'm doing. As I said earlier, this summer I'm going to do a lot of educational workshops because it's needed. And a lot of times, again, you don't know what you don't know, but you also don't know where to go to get that help. Put you in a position to where you can come and listen and learn. If you don't want to be in a group or you just want to, see me sooner, just, send me a message there, or you can actually call me. My phone number, my business line is 716-389-1911. Or, of course, my email, Desiree@dlpconsultingwny.com.
Awesome. So I usually like to end the show a little bit talking about who's on your playlist. Who are you listening to right now, as far as music wise?
Music wise, I rarely listen to the radio anymore. So I do a lot of old school listening to. I'm an R&B fan.
What's your R&B? Who's at the top of that list?
My Boyz2Men. That's my group. That's my group right there. I tell people all the time, if you want something to happen, I listen to The Secret, the audibles with The Secret. Okay. And they said, keep speaking it into existence. And literally when they came to Buffalo or Niagara Falls pre-pandemic, the time got kind of stuck in those 3 years. And they were coming, and I was like, I want to go, but I waited too late to get tickets that were sold out. And I was like, man, I just want to go. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, because I know a lot of people that can call in favors, but when it's sold out, it's sold out. It's just there are no favors. I got a call maybe a week before the concert, and it was my childhood friend that we don't talk all the time, but we're still friends. We keep in contact. My friend from 6th grade, she's like, Desi, I got tickets. She was like, my boss gave me tickets to Boyz2Men, and I thought about you immediately. So she invited me to go. Do you know we got there? I was in that third row.
Wow.
And I got a rose from Wanye, so I was excited. But yes.
Where did they play at?
They were at the Niagara Falls Casino.
Okay, so I think I was at that concert. Mm-hmm. Actually, I took my mom there. Yeah, so that was dope. Mm-hmm. And who else was there with them? I think it was other groups. Was it SWV?
I think that one was. It was before. It was before that last one.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, that one was just them. So those are exciting, because that's like my childhood. That's my group. R&B, I could just sit there and listen to all day long. I keep my earpiece. I work accounting during the day. I how do you do that all the time? But I keep my earpiece in, so I always have music going. So I'm always on. I'll have. I have to get my spirituals in there. That when I finish the Steve Harvey morning show in the morning, then I go into my spirituals for an hour or two to get my mind right. Gotcha. Then I go into my music to kind of get me through the rest of the day, because it's just kind of. But I just listen to it for just relaxation. Sometimes I end up tuning it out, because I'm a multitasker and I can't work in silence. If it's too quiet, like, oh, what's going on?
I need something. Yeah.
Yes, when you're dealing with numbers, that's my focus is noise. Believe it or not, some people's like, I gotta have quiet. I can't listen. I can't do anything else. I have to have noise around me. So, R&B will keep me rolling.
I love it. Well, this has been a very informative episode. And if you are starting your business, or you're obviously in the midst of in your own business and been consistent with it, is definitely make sure, I appreciate your honesty too about not just saying you have to have a consultant or you have to get a CPA or a bookkeeper, but to balance that, really figure out what your situation is. And one is support. Always get help. Get out of this me kind of thing and get into getting help and support, whether it's for your mental, the financial piece, all of that. So we all need a good support system. So I appreciate you stopping in and educating us. And please, if you are looking for a business coach, helping with bookkeeping and other consulting services, make sure you hit her up. And just as you heard her conversation, is that her integrity is really intact. It's just not about, getting a quick buck from you, but making sure that you help you and put you in the right direction. This has been another great episode of Empower716. Thanks for locking in.